Okay, we are live. Welcome to another edition of Hulk Wrestling 101. Chris, if you could join me for just a second and let me know if you can hear me. I got, like I said, my new headset. I just want to kind of see. And then I know you get ready for bed, but if you could give me just a couple seconds, I would appreciate it. So, hopefully, Chris gets to me. That is Hulk Christopher. And for some reason, my phone is not uploading my message. I get it to him. So let me turn off my Wi-Fi for that. Sometimes it's my internet and my phone don't like connecting, and then I have to reset it. There we go. It's loading now for him. But I want to touch a little bit before we get to the raw stuff on the announcement that was made by Impact on Saturday night, and that is the team formerly known as the Iconics, which is now going by the team of the Inspiration, will be going and will be at Bound for Glory. You can hear me great. So, if there are any questions you want to ask me before you go to bed, I'm kind of giving Raw a few more minutes because I know sometimes they don't go after 5, 10 after, and then got to give it a chance to upload on my phone. Um, so, oh, that's sure. Thank you. It is. It's kind of reddish and all that. But so the Iconics will be at Bound for Glory. Nobody knows for sure if they have signed a contract. I expect that they have, but then again, we don't know. And a lot of times they bring in talent for 3, 4 months, even put titles on them, and they are still not under contract. Like they did that with the current Knockout champion. She was champion for 4 or 5 months before they put ink to paper. So that could be something happened. But I know one of my friends don't think they can wrestle that good. But the thing is, they are good enough to help any division that is just trying to get off the ground. Raw sucks. Why am I reviewing it? I'm not really reviewing it. I'm just going to be more reading the highlights. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it? Honestly, I don't know anyone that watches Raw anymore. I know I haven't watched it. I guess Bill was supposed to be on it. Even though I'm a Bill fan, I don't really watch it even on him or even for him. So I've heard rumors that there was going to be anywhere from up to 10 debuts at Bound for Glory. A one big possibility is Braun Strowman, which he's going to be using his real name, which I don't even remember what that is. And another possibility is Bray Wyatt. I'm just trying to think if his 90 day will be up in time. I don't know. Some MLW news. Hammerstone won the world title. He injured his leg, but it's not supposed to be severe enough to have to miss any time, so he shouldn't have to forfeit the title. No, I didn't watch it, you WCW fanboy. LOL. Well, I will say this. I don't honestly think even in the last year that WCW sucked as much as WWE is right now. And I challenge you to argue that fact. And that challenge is for anybody out there. And I am surprised Alvin's not on here. He's usually on here by now. Maybe he's already in bed. Chris, can you still hear me? For some reason, my mic is not doing the stuff it normally does. Okay, so OLH did announce their final battle pay-per-view today. I don't remember the date, but I think, okay, December 11th. I don't know if they announced where it's coming from, but I do know they did announce it. No matches have been signed yet. AEW news: the Lucha Brothers will be defending the AEW World Championship Tag Team Championships. Well, let me get this right before I mess it completely. They will be defending the AAA Tag Team titles, the Lucha Brothers, on Saturday Night Dynamite this week. Yes, Chris, if you did not know, Dynamite will be moved this week to Saturday because of some sort of playoffs. I don't follow the sport, so I don't know exactly which one it is. Had Rick versus Sting in a t-shirt. And yeah, I can still hear you. Okay, well, the second part, good. The first part is, yeah, they was in t-shirts. But that because that match pretty much got thrown together at last minute because it was a final match of WCW. You can't really call the invasion still WCW stuff. So I understand where you're coming from because neither guy should have been in the ring, but they wanted to end the WCW era the way Nitro began. I believe, well, not necessarily begin, but they did. That feud is what had WCW stand alone, was the feud between Sting and Flair. That feud started in late '89 and went all the way to pretty much the last episode of Nitro. So I like I said, I know where you're coming from, but I also know I could understand where WCW wanted that as their final match. So I know I touched on it a little bit, but I would really like your thought, Chris, on if you think the TBS title should have came before the trios. And when you answer that, I would like you to explain to me so I can explain to anyone that may watch this why your opinion is the way it is. I still say it should have been the trios belt first. And my friend Jason made a valid point, which I expect the women's title to be changed where it's actually bigger than the TBS title. He was saying that the TBS belt was bigger than the world title for the women. And I completely understand that. But I think what it boils down to is they went with the same design that the TNT title is. And I don't even know if Chris is still with me. He hasn't replied in a while. It says I still got one watching, so I'm going to assume he is still with us. And I'm going to be pulling up, hopefully by now they got the finals of Raw here. Like I said, I'm just basically going to stroll through this like I usually do. And I would on WWE programs, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. And since I'm doing it, I might as well touch on AEW Elevation from tonight as well. Opens up with Chase Center in San Francisco, California. Right to the ring, and out comes McIntyre to a pop. McIntyre stops on the stage and raises his sword in the air as the pyro goes off. Drew takes the mic and comments on how he might not get to kick off Raw too much more. He hypes WWE Crown Jewels and his match with WWE Champion Big E. Notice that everyone will talk about the match because this is where he will once again become champion. Drew says he waited months for this match. This is his last chance at the title before going to SmackDown, and he sure as heck, I ain't gonna use the other word, won't let it slip through his finger. Drew goes to recall a story from earlier to today, but the music interrupts and out comes Big E to a big pop. And I'm gonna pause that and read the question so I can give it to Chris. My opinion is simple. They need to give us the trio championship before people loses interest. The TBS championship should have waited. I don't think people are going to lose interest in the trios division, period. It's a high demand, and I think it's going to remain. I do think they should have did them both. I expect to see it, and it may be something that they're going to bring for Jericho's cruise that is fixing to happen, because the original plan was for the trios title to debut last year on the ship. So maybe that's what they're doing. Next question, please. Or next opinion, please, whichever you want to do. Okay, back to the Raw. Big E takes the mic and says he gets it. He understands why Drew wants to be WWE champion so badly. He goes on and says Drew is also accomplished, but he will never take this title from Big E. He says Drew has two options as the train has already left the station. You can jump on board or you be or your big soul willing butt. He said the other word. Uh, but can stay on those tracks and get ran smooth over. Drew files back and says Big E is on cloud nine as he should be, but he is still chasing his moment. He goes on and says he is going to run through Big E to win back the title, and there is not a dang thing Big E can do about it. The music interrupts, and out comes SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. Jimmy and Jay, why in the heck are they coming to Raw? I thought the draft, the whole idea was to separate them, keep them from interchanging. That is a bit okay. That is a bit unusual, but okay, this is WWE, so why am all you not surprised? The Usos say they are pumped for McIntyre versus Big E. They discuss who might get the win, and Drew asks why the heck are they here. The Usos says the Bloodline got drafted to SmackDown, but they are now in this city, so tonight they're sending out warning shots. They talk about how the WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns will retain over Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewels, but they're trying to figure out who will be WWE champion, Big E or McIntyre. Graves says they're talking about Reigns' opponent at Survivor Series. They warned Big E and McIntyre about getting in Reigns' way, and they say they had plans for Kingston and Woods when they come to SmackDown. They toss a few more threats at Big E, and McIntyre looks on. Jimmy and Jay goes to leave, but Big E says they're not coming out, running their mouths, and then just leave. Big E goes on to speak on behalf of Drew, but Drew says no, he can't. The Usos says they can't speak on behalf of the tribal chief, and they propose a tag team match for tonight. Drew says they're on. The Usos takes advantage of Big E, and McIntyre being distracted by each other ends up dropping them both with super kicks. The Usos exit the ring and no music hits while Big E and McIntyre stares at each other from the mat. King of the Ring tournament first round match. Woods versus Ricochet. I am not reading the blow by blow on this. Jeff Hardy versus Theory is confirmed for later. Winner, Woods. I am surprised by that, honestly. Yeah, you would think, but there has been Give me just a minute, Chris. But there has been rumors that Ricochet's on his way out, so maybe that makes sense. But everyone knew about the TBS championship, didn't they? And Drew needs to turn heel. Uh, he won't be turning heel when he goes to SmackDown. Not anytime soon, because the big heel is, and forevermore right now, is Roman Reigns. And Usos are on guard because Roman gave Paul a mission last week. Then Roman told Jimmy and Jay to make sure Paul gets his mission done or take him out. The mission was done last week, though. He got them drafted to SmackDown. That was the mission. Was there another mission I didn't watch last Friday? Did he give Paul another mission? The next match is Mustafa Ali versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, the Hurt Business 2.0. Shelton and Alexander win after the bell. Shelton and Cedric head to the back. They show footage of how Basil took out Jax. Queen Crown Tournament first round match. Basil versus Dana Brooks. And of course, Basil wins. I can see Nia costing Basil the match later. Raw Tag Team Champion Riddle versus Omos. The winner, of course, is Omos. After the match, AJ enters the ring and gets ready for a style clash, but Orton music hits to distract him. Omos goes on, but Orton slides in the ring and leaves AJ with the RKO out of nowhere. Orton and Riddle heads to the ramp to look on as Omos and AJ is seating in the middle of the ring. Back from the break, and we see what happened between Goldberg and Lashley last week in the ring. Now he says people are asking why he made the challenge for a no-host ball match. He brings up how Goldberg threatened his life last week. Lashley goes on about how he's a better superstar than Goldberg, who comes in here last week wearing cut off sleeves and yelling about murder. Really classic, he says. Lashley says he can't go into a match with a man screaming and foaming at the mouth. He says the icon Goldberg has been reduced to a rabid dog, one that needs to be put down. Lashley says at Crown Jewel he will finally end Goldberg's career. No longer will Goldberg ride in him and try to end someone's career, then ride into the sunset. Lashley says there will be no misunderstanding because Goldberg can't beat the Almighty, can't hurt the Almighty, and dang sure can't kill the Almighty. Lashley drops the mics and walks off as his music hits. Week from Thursday pay-per-view, Brock Lesnar will win. I don't know. I honestly don't know. That match could honestly go either way. I think it all depends on what they have planned for Roman from here on out. if they let Lashley take it just so Roman can get it back at Mania. It also depends on what Paul Heyman does. Jeff Hardy versus Austin Theory. Austin Theory wins. King of the Ring tournament first round match: Jinder Mahal versus Kofi. And Jinder. They should have let Kofi win and had it Woods lose. If you want my honest opinion, that's how I would have done it. Goldberg will win. I kind of see that as well because there's no title at stake, so a loss doesn't affect Lashley that much. So yeah, I think Bill will win. I know a lot of people not going to like that, but that's my opinion on it. So Woods will face Jinder Mahal next week in the second round of the tournament. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair versus SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch and Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. This ought to be interesting. Are we even going to get an outcome, or is this going to be a no contest? They probably couldn't get along. We'll see what happens earlier tonight with SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Again, they showed that like 3 times already. Queen Crown Tournament for Crown match. Doudrop, Natalia. Oh, wow. Doudrop. After the match, Doudrop stands tall and celebrates as her music hits. Bianca looks on from backstage as we get a update look at the bracket. Bianca versus Doudrop is confirmed for next Monday. Morrison is meditating in the back when WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley walks up asking what he's doing. Morrison is tapping into his inner circle. Nikki says everyone should follow their dreams. They walk away and laugh as Ripley asks Nikki if she knows what Morrison was talking about, but she doesn't. They look back and Morrison is meditating again. Big E backstage warming up. Austin Theory stops to take a selfie. Still to come, our tag team main event. Main event time was hopefully my phone's updated before I started it. Big E versus and the Usos versus WWE Champion Usos SmackDown Champion, by the way, versus WWE Champion Big E and Drew McIntyre. The Usos win by countout. After the bell, Drew and Big E continue brawling at ringside. Oh, they start brawling. The Usos run the ring and fly out on the floor, taking Big E and Drew down. They landed on Big E over the announce table, and he lands hard. They then launch Drew into the barricade. The Usos continue to turn furniture over and push Big E and Drew. Big E fights back with a belly to belly for Jay. Then he shoves Jimmy into Drew, who hits him with a big overhead suplex on the floor. Big E and Drew meets in the ring again, going at it and brawling with each other. Drew avoids a big ending and drops Big E with a claymore in the middle of the ring. Drew stands tall over Big E as the starts back up. We go to replay and the referee breaks Drew away from Big E. Drew looks on from the ramp as Big E slowly recovers in the ring, and that's where Raw goes off the air. So I'm going back to Pro Wrestling News to see if there's anything else I need to touch on. Women of Wrestling announced their return for the fall of 2022. Tessa Blanchard is one of those stars, but the big one, I think, is the former AJ Lee, which I believe is AJ Menendez or something like that. But for the future, for the reference, we would just call her AJ Lee because everyone knows who that is. Yes, I know AEW is on Saturday because of some sort of playoffs. I don't know if it's basketball or hockey, but it's one of the two. I think. So, even though I don't usually do this, how about I do some AEW Dark Elevation? And since I'm already live, I can do it right here. Paul White and Eddie Kingston on commentator, no Tony Schiavone. Equals no rules. We start out right away from that ought to be an interesting two-man team. Okay, maybe I should go watch Elevation later just to see how they sound on commentator. Okay, so Elevation opens up with Penelope Ford with the Bunny versus. I have no idea how to pronounce that name, so I'm not going to try, but there's no one on the roster. Next match is Santana and Ortiz versus another local tag team, I guess. Adrian Sola and Matthew. And of course, Santana and Ortiz won it. So the next one is the take member of Dark Order versus Dana Mo, and of course Dark Order lady won. Joey Janela with Kaylee Rusa versus Cobalt. Cobalt's here. I heard rumors said he was supposed to be here. Of course, Joey Janela won. Emma Saki versus Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho via pinfall. Private Party, The Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny versus Lee Johnson. Brock Anderson, Chuck Taylor, and Willa Una with Chris Statlander. Doesn't say if Arn is with him or not. That's what I was looking for, you would think. But it doesn't say. I know Arn left Cody, but he was still supposed to be part of the rest of the people. And the winner is a Private Party in the Butcher and the Braid. And that's the end of Dark Elevation. SmackDown's on first this Friday because of baseball. Oh, so SmackDown's on Fox Sports 1 then. Yeah, I knew that was coming up. I just didn't know it was that soon. I have not actually watched a WWE show in ages. So I believe. Oh yeah, Impact has announced a battle royal where the winner will be the number 20 in the Call Your Own Shot gauntlet, and the last person eliminated would be number 1. And I believe that's all the news reports that I have heard. Give me just a second. I'm looking, but I don't see anything else. Got any more questions, Alvin, while you're up here? I think Hardcore Christopher went to bed already. Yeah, I know they moved. It's just Dynamite, though, that's moving to TBS, at least right now. I'm not sure if they just decided to leave Rampage for now on TNT, or if they're going to move it at a later time. But honestly, having one on show on each would be fine. I mean, yeah, it's the first Wednesday of the year. I do know they're going to have 4 specials a year on TNT. So we'll see what happens. Anything else? Well, it's not just baseball. Anytime there is a sport that is on TNT, they got baseball that interferes. In March, there's basketball. So that's why that's one of the reasons they're moving off Wednesdays and that's one of the reasons they are moving off of Wednesdays and AEW and TNT. It does make a lot of sense. Have you heard anything else that I haven't touched on, Alvin? I know you do a lot more reading sometimes than I do. Top MLW star announced for IWA Puerto Rico. I'm not going to touch on that because. All right, well, Alvin, have a good night. Hardcore Christopher, if you're still here, have a good night. And this is Hardcore Wrestling 101 saying keep the fights coming. Hey, Mary! Honey! Mary!